So hello and welcome back to my channel. In this video, I'm going to review a very super cool superhero Malayalam film called Minnal Murali. The film is directed by Basil Joseph and stars Tovino Thomas and Guru Somasundaram, whom you might recall from Jigartanda movie, a Tamil film where he's the theater teacher with the famous kill and laugh dialogue. So both Tovino and Guru Soma Sundaram act as the lead superhero and supervillain roles. Film was initially slated to be released in late 2020, but as with many films that year, was pushed out, because of the pandemic, and was eventually released on Netflix in September last year, which is 2021. So Minnal Murali was actually marketed as Malayalam film industry's first superhero, or rather mainstream superhero film. But in actuality, the film is much more than just a superhero and villain fighting it out with their superpowers. The film actually touches deeply into what makes someone a hero and what pushes someone to become a villain. There are deeper references to socioeconomic inequities, societal pressures, and judgment of the weaker section of the society. It's not very apparent, but when you try seeing beyond what is shown at the surface of the film, you tend to understand why certain people behave in certain ways and why do they take certain actions based on those behaviors. What really makes this film stand apart is the brilliant writing by Arun, Anirudhan, and Mathew, and the characterization of the myriad of characters who actually push the story forward. There is an interesting anecdote on how Arun, the writer, actually found inspiration for the story, and it originates from this meme which shows Batman actually wearing a lungi and holding an arual or a machete in his mouth. So that one image actually sparked a what if idea, which is what if a superhero was born out of a village in a rural setting in Kerala. The setting provides an interesting take on what would become a very interesting deviation from the traditional superhero movies, where superheroes actually save larger cities or the entire nation or the entire world. The film is set in the late 80s and early 90s, just before the tech revolution in India. Jason, played by Tovino, is a tailor in a small village and hopes to move to the US. Jason is very stylish, dreams big, lives a seemingly carefree life managing the tailor shop, navigating an almost about to end relationship with his girlfriend, and hanging out with his 10-year-old nephew. So, almost like this village simpleton. He lives with his father, his sister, and brother in law, which is played brilliantly by Aju Varghese. On the other hand, you have Shibu, played by Guru Somasundaram, who works in the village tea shop as a tea master and a cleaner. He lives with his father at the fringe of the village. Shibu is almost the lowest of the low. Nobody respects him, nobody acknowledges him, and nobody actually cares about him. Almost invisible, with his only obsession being his childhood crush, Usha, which is played by Shelly Kishore, who has just returned back to her village with her young daughter after a failed eloped marriage. The movie itself begins when there is a rare alignment of planets in motion, and both Shibu and Jason are struck by lightning in different parts of the village. Both of them are unaware that this has happened to each one of them. Jason is rushed to the hospital, where he gets treatment and is eventually discharged. Shibu, when he's struck by lightning, he actually crawls back to his house and closes himself off to the world. And over a period of time, slowly, both of them start discovering their superpowers and then start exploring the limits of the strength that they possess. So here it then kind of goes into how Jason and Shibu react to the super powers that they've got. Jason dons a mask, uses the pseudonym Minnal Murali. A very interesting backstory as to how the name Minnal Murali comes. And one of his first acts as a superhero is to actually take revenge on the local police inspector for hurting his father, where he eventually shows his past to the public for the first time, but still wearing the mask. Shibu, on the other hand, is pushed to actually rob a bank to help Usha's sick daughter. And both these instances where Jason actually takes revenge on the police inspector and then Shibu has to rob a bank, kind of become the diverging path for Jason and Shibu as to how one becomes a superhero and how the other becomes a supervillain. Jason just wants to get his new passport and move to the US despite having such amazing superpowers, almost as if it doesn't mean much to him. Shibu is not that lucky with indifference, so he keeps upping his display of strength and power, albeit also under a mask, and becomes more and more dangerous as he desperately tries to win Usha over. Also calling himself Minnal Murali, again without revealing too much of the spoilers as to how he finds that name. Shibu and Jason then engage in a game of cat and mouse, trying to find out who each other is. The rest of the film kind of dwells into how Jason rises above his personal needs and turns into a protector of the village. And Shibu is ready to literally burn everything to the ground just so that he and Usha can be together. Is Jason able to push past his dreams, his insecurities, his personal needs to face the demon which Shibu has become? And on the other side, is Shibu able to win over Usha and lead a happy life he always dreamt of? Forms the climax of the film. As I had mentioned earlier, what really makes this film stick is not just the brilliant characterization of Jason and Shibu, but all of the other supporting characters who form very important and pivotal part of this film. So these many characters play pivotal roles within the film and how the film progresses. And some of the characters which instantly stick out is Aju George, who plays Jason's brother-in-law in the film. And he's also a police officer in the police station, and he and Jason have a very friction relationship where the brother-in-law is constantly trying to put down Jason, and then it very obviously it seems that they don't have a very healthy or a loving relationship. And one of the first instances where actually Jason is able to show his power is when the brother-in-law actually hits his sister, and then in a fit of anger he pushes him and realizes that he's got this amazing super strength. And the characterization of this brother-in-law is so strong. You really hate him for who he is, and you really want to see him in pain and hurt. So another interesting character is that of Josemon, played by the 10-year-old Vasisht, a very lovable, sweet character. He is Jason's nephew and probably the only close confidant or friend that Jason actually has. And the character arc of Jason is heavily influenced by what Josemon influences Jason to be. So I've spoken about the hero's journey in my previous video, and obviously the writers and the directors have been inspired by the hero's journey in this film too, where the hero goes through different phases, from acceptance, from falling down, from raising, through trials and tribulations, and then seeking the help of a mentor or a helper to realize the potential that they have. And in this film, that role of the mentor is actually played by the 10-year-old nephew, who has more faith in Jason, who's got more values and morals than what Jason has. And throughout the film, Josimon becomes Minnal Murali, or Jason's conscience, in kind of guiding him through the right path and giving him strength and encouragement when he falls down. Uh, there are other characters, his ex-girlfriend's boyfriend and then eventually husband, funny characterization there, and then his ex-girlfriend's husband's girlfriend, who also plays an interesting part in the film. And you have Jason's father and the police inspector. So many different characters who actually help push the film forward, and it is because of the strong writing that you really feel involved, and it feels very real the way they actually kind of push the story forward. Some other things which I really liked about the film was setting up the hero and setting up the villain. So you know, and you're given clear insights into who the hero is and who he was, and the very clear insight into who Shibu is and where he comes from. So you have a fair understanding of how they would behave, and there is justification to why they would behave the way they are. There are certain very pivotal moments in the film in terms of where does Minnal Murali become from this person who only cares about himself and his whole ideology of moving to the US, to where he actually becomes the protector of the village, and a very clear demarcation where you know why Shibu becomes the supervillain that he's become. So those parts of the writing and picturization were very well done, and really pushes and makes it feel very real the way they behave. Some of the things which I personally felt did not work was, you have this very strong super villain, which is great. You want to create a backstory and you want to tell the story of how the supervillain actually becomes a supervillain and what are the pivotal moments which kind of pushes him to become a supervillain. And in doing that, what has happened is you kind of start feeling a sense of endearment to the supervillain. You feel that he is justified in the way that he is reacting, he's justified in the way that he is feeling, and he's justified in the reaction that he's showing. uh, to again give you an example without revealing too much of the film, there is this pivotal moment where Shibu completely loses it and becomes this very evil demon, which then Minnal Murli has to, go and fight. But the problem with that changeover is, it is a very fair changeover. Somebody in your position or in my position would probably react the same way. So when you have that very true or very real reason to kind of become evil, then it kind of brings this question of, is it justified for Minnal Murli to then go and, kill or, win over this particular supervillain, because what he's done is justified. So I think there, by showing this very real characteristic of Shibu, and by showing that he's become this because the society has treated him that way, doesn't actually kind of show him in a very negative light, and then you kind of end up not feeling bad for the villain, and then you might question as to, hey, was he really a supervillain? Now that could be what the writers were trying to achieve. I don't know, but my interpretation of the film and the villain was definitely that he didn't seem like a villain. But of course, in the final sequence where it is a big showdown between the hero and the supervillain, I think there they have justified, or it does seem necessary as to why the superhero has to end the supervillain, which at that point it seems fair. But I think in the overall setting, you do feel sorry for what Shibu had become, and then it kind of puts a question back to us as to, are we as a society creating a lot of evil people and a lot of supervillains because of the way we judge people, because of their socioeconomic conditions, or because of how they have been brought up, or because of what they don't have. So I think, like I said, a lot of subtext when it comes to how uh, how we are trying to look at good versus evil. And I think those subtexts are important because at the end of the day, um, nobody's born evil, nobody's born bad. Situations and instances change people to become bad, but is that a justification for some of the evil things that you do? I think that story or that arc is something that I think each person might interpret it differently. But yeah, but I did think that maybe make the villain a little bit more evil so that you don't empathize with the villain that much. I think that is something which I've kind of felt was a little bit off. A very clean, very well written film. I think this is something that everybody should definitely watch. Tovino Thomas, I never knew of Tovino Thomas until I saw the film. Brilliant job in portraying the character of Jason, where traditionally, heroes and generally within Indian cinema, actors don't tend to show themselves as lesser people and show themselves as losers. But in this film, Jason is an all-out loser. He loses his girlfriend, he loses his job, he loses his passport. He doesn't earn much. He does not have the respect of the village. And to portray that, I think that was a very good casting call by the directors. And of course, Shibu, played by Guru Somasundaram, brilliant acting. In some of the scenes, it really sends chills down your spine. The way he looks at the camera, the way he reacts, without even talking, through his expressions, he actually brings out that evil look. I think amazing job done in terms of acting. I would have loved to see this movie on a large screen. Unfortunately, it was released on OTT platforms. So, if you get a chance, definitely a must watch film. And hopefully, there is a second part. Though the film doesn't say if there's going to be a second part, but if there was a second part, I think people would love to see. I would love to see a second part. And yeah, again, amazing job by the directors, especially the writers who put in a lot of effort in refining the script and defining very clearly what the characterization is going to be. So it's on Netflix. If you can find the film, I would definitely recommend. Again, I don't believe in star ratings or any ratings, but yeah, definitely a must-watch film, and I'm sure that you will enjoy the film. And before you guys go, if you like this video, if you like this format, it would be great if you can like this video. If you can subscribe, that would be great as well. I will leave it completely up to you, but if you like it, like and subscribe would be really great. Thank you very much.